and Racing is brought to you by Exceed Sports Nutritional, putting the science of sports nutrition on your training table. And by Foot Locker, America's most complete athletic footwear store. Where else are you going to go?
This is Balboa Stadium in San Diego, California. Built in 1917, it's been the site of many great athletic events. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Running and Racing. I'm Marty Liquori. 22 years ago, as a high school senior from New Jersey, I won my first world-class mile here in the near magical time of 4 minutes and 1/10 of a second. Since that time, the old asphalt track has been replaced by a $700,000 Recordtan track, and the old stands had to be torn down because they didn't meet earthquake requirements. And of course, I can only do 4 minutes on a bicycle. In fact, an awful lot has changed in the sport of running. A long time ago, in a place far, far away, there was something called a running boom. Average Americans, many non-athletes, discovered cardiovascular exercise. Now the fitness lifestyle is an American institution, and regular, aggressive physical exercise is now a daily joy to millions, and it is most readily expressed with running.
I certainly don't think that the running boom is over, but that we're at a stage now where people have adopted it really as a core part of their lifestyle. That means maybe they're not as fanatical about it as they were a few years ago. Maybe you don't have to run 4 marathons every year. Maybe you can run 1 a year, 1 every other year. But people are still out there 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week because it's simply the best way to keep in shape. It's the simplest. It's the least expensive. It does the most for you. Everything else is complicated in our lives. We're looking for something simple and effective, and running does it.
Whether it's running, walking, swimming, or cycling, the results are the same. A more positive mental attitude, higher performance on the job, and a more healthy lifestyle. The media covering basketball may get the front page of the sports section, but the running community isn't looking for headlines.
I think we've lost some of the glitz. I think it's not the big media sport that it was in the late 70s and 80s when the newspapers were in love with it because it was hot and new and they could run stories. And, you know, newspapers are always looking for something new, and so they've turned to whatever comes next, triathlons or biathlons or whatever it might be, going back to the old hardcore sports before. But the participant level of running is still people who are out there doing it, staying in shape, staying positive about their lives, really actively involved, and having fun at the same time.
Runner's World Magazine presents Tips from the Top. Good advice for better training and racing.
Something that makes me feel really good is doing a few little sort of agility type exercises. I do crazy things. I call things like quick feet, where I go over to a grass field and I try and move my legs and arms as fast as I can, and then I'll maybe break into a sprint, and then I'll stop, and then I'll do some sort of side kicks, almost aerobic type exercises that I think help me with a little bit of flexibility and just loosen up my body in general, and I feel really good doing that. I think it's important maybe not to get stuck just doing mileage all the time. You gotta, you know, do some different things with your body.
For more on training and racing, look to Runner's World Magazine. On your newsstands now.
Running and Racing will be back with more from San Diego, including a chat with the world's fastest man on a bike, John Howard. We're back in San Diego talking with John Howard, Ironman champion, Olympic cyclist before that, and more recently the world's fastest human on a bicycle at 153 miles an hour. And of course, recently you had a well-publicized race with Frank Shorter in the biathlon. You were admittedly short on run training, and many people are wondering if you'll be better prepared next year and have a rematch with Frank.
I don't know, Marty. I've done that already. I would like to have another shot at Frank, and I really believe I could beat him, but on the other hand, there are other projects that are more important to me at the moment. One is the Aqua Cycle from Nassau to Miami, and that's never been done before, and that's more intriguing to me at the moment.
Always a new challenge for John Howard. We'll be back to talk with John on a future show, but right now, let's go to Toni Reavis with our running and racing highlights.
Athletes love it the year after the Olympics because all that pressure that they experienced the year before is now gone. Because of that, they have a tendency to run a lot faster, let's hope in 1989, than they did in 1988. The other thing we see in the post-Olympic year are fresh new faces in amongst the old. Let's go to the road race circuit. It begins every year down in Florida. So that's where we're going to start. In Jacksonville, at the Jacksonville River Run 15K. New faces, old faces, running for some bucks. Let's take a look. Jacksonville sweltered under a cloak of 97% humidity. Craig Virgin and I were in town to call the race for the Road Race of the Month series. Here's our chase pack. Number 91, William Musioki. That's number 3, Steve Jones. That's number 1, Steve Spence. And in the back from Mexico, that's Pablo Cerrone, who was 7th at the Gasparilla Distance Classic in Tampa, as we move up to Halverson. And boy, does he have great form.
Tony, the lead pack just broke open. I think this is the race. They have to be taking John Halverson seriously. According to our press guide, he was 16th at the Olympic Games 10,000 meters of Seoul last year. He has the 10,000 meter PR of under 28 minutes. He definitely is legitimate.
We never see this guy on the American road scene, so I'm sure these guys probably don't know who he is, but can't they tell by his form that he's a serious, talented runner?
Well, obviously, they must think he's for real because they're not letting him go, and there's basically 4 guys hanging on to him right now, Tony.
The interesting thing for me is the fact that we haven't seen John Tracy. Rod DiCostella's out the back door. We haven't seen him. And Marcus Barretto, he's way in the back as well. So this guy is really separating the men from the boys early on.
I think that DiCostella and Tracy are definitely suffering from the marathon preparation. But this young man is a 10,000 meter specialist, and I don't think the 15K is too far for him.
And here's Kathy O'Brien in uncharted territory, leading a major American road race. She took the lead before the 3-mile mark, now is about a 10-second lead. Got sort of a small body, not prototypical of a distance runner, but boy, she must have a great cardiovascular system because she's doing it great.
And here's Diane Brewer in second place, hoping that Kathy's move has been a bit impetuous. Behind her is Lisa Weidenbach, stalking the lead pack like she always does in the longer races.
Now we cut up to the 8-mile mark, where the men are getting ready to take on the signature element of the Jacksonville course. And now they're just about to take the turn onto the Hart Bridge, the ramp going up the Hart Bridge. And you can see Steve Jones in the middle there gather himself, and you can actually see the incline as Halverson attacks. And he attacks hard with his head straight up. He looks in much better form as Musioki goes by Jones.
That's right. Musioki seems to be answering the move that Halverson is making. Jones doesn't seem to be responding. I'm not quite sure why.
He seems like he's had his day in the sun, and it's done him in. As Halverson is opening up for at least the 6th or 7th time in this competition. And he knows this is going to make or break it. And there's Kathy O'Brien, our women's leader. Her lead is swelled to more than 30 seconds as she begins the ascent on the Hart Bridge and looking as strong as when she began.
She's definitely looking smooth, and here's John Halverson on the top of the bridge, and there's the Gator Bowl where the finish line is, just off his left shoulder.
And he's blazing down that hill. I mean, he does not look like there's any fall apart in this man right now. He's got the most invested in the lead because he's done all the work in this race, so he wants victory at this point.
Well, if you look at his stride, it's important. He's able to lengthen out. Here's Kathy going up. She's shortening. She's pumping. Looking at her right now, I think she seems to be comfortable on the hill. It's not going to hurt her race at all.
And you can see how steep the hill is by the slowness of this pace. You really did a great shot of it right here. But again, she's not falling apart, and strength is her game.
Well, she gambled an early move, and the toughest part of the course is now almost behind her.
And Jones has moved past Musioki into second place, and he's got Halverson in his crosshairs. But is it too little, too late?
Jones is running well, but he's got to pray that John Halverson ties up because John has got too much of a gap right now as we approach the Gator Bowl.
And Halverson is off the hill now, and he is not tying up. He checks Jones for his lead. He's looking good, Greg.
He does look good. In fact, he's looked good the entire race, Tony. He's made the transition now from a distance runner to a sprinter. I love seeing a track man make good.
It's Jones in second, Musioki in third. But the man of the day, 21-year-old Norwegian star John Halverson, in his American debut on the roads, breaking through in winning fashion at the Jacksonville River Run 1989. And Jones in second. 21-year-old Kathy O'Brien of Boston, an Olympian in 1988, sure, but never a major race victor until now. Breaking through at Jacksonville 1989. Now a word with our winners.
I had no strategy going into it. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. You know, I knew the field was really good. So I decided to, before I was thinking of maybe sitting back till about 10K or so. but I felt really comfortable. Got to the top of the ramp and I thought the surge felt pretty good. And up the hill, it's starting to hurt a bit, but I was able to stretch it out, so good.
Because I ran on the U.S. Olympic marathon team, and I don't think people really know that that I'm capable of running fast too, because I really haven't proven myself. So now I've been training really well down in Gainesville this winter, getting myself into the kind of shape that I know I can be, and that therefore running this kind of race. So hopefully people will know now that I can run fast too.
Halverson's victory was worth $6,000. Jones in second injures his Achilles tendon, which forced him out of the Boston Marathon the next month. O'Brien's win, $8,000. A $2,000 bonus of being first American. Knowledge enhances performance. Here with the buying tip is Lady Foot Locker store manager Robin Burke.
Saucony, a well-established name among serious runners, is known best for its fit termed the Saucony Ride. For low mileage or beginning runners, the Jazz 2000 is your perfect choice. It's got the triangular lug outsole, which slopes forward to give the runners that extra push. For mid-mileage runners, the Saucony 5000 is an excellent choice. It's got the polyurethane midsole for extra cushioning and molded EVA for stability. For top-of-the-line runners, we've got the Saucony Azura. It's a lightweight training shoe which can also be used for racing. And its main feature is the torsion rigidity bar in the outsole, which gives extra rebound with every step. So if you're looking for a good running shoe, look to Saucony.
Marty's back with more from San Diego right after we take this time out. Stick around.
We're in San Diego with Tom Warren, winner of the 1979 Ironman triathlon. But Tom, as an ex-swimmer, you had already had experience with triathlons right here in San Diego.
Oh, yeah, they actually originated right here in Fiesta Island, not far from where I live, and we used to do the swim last, which was real interesting because the runners could get way ahead, and boy, as long as you had them in your sight, you knew you could catch them in the swim.
Well, these days, it's usually the runners who are trying to come from behind. The last place you'd expect to find a triathlon is in the heart of New York City, home of the New York City Marathon. But the triathlon has made it even here. Judging by the triathlons shown on network TV, it's easy to assume that all triathlons are held in exotic places like Hawaii and Nice, that the distances are superhuman, and that the equipment costs slightly less than an Indianapolis race car. In fact, there are thousands of triathlons with easily managed distances held in even the most populated, gritty cities like New York. The first annual Central Park Triathlon, put on by the Big Apple Triathlon Club in the New York City Parks Department, started with a quarter-mile swim in Lasker Pool, 6 laps, 3 to 4 swimmers to a lane, and then 12 miles on the bike in the park, finished with a 5-mile run. The winner's time, 1 hour and 11 minutes. With triathlons moving into the city and shorter swims in pools, soon runners won't have any excuse left not to do a triathlon.
What makes Dave Scott so successful? Obviously, one thing is the way he trains. This Ironman triathlon world champion and record holder recently spent some time sharing some of his training and racing techniques with us.
In preparation for the Ironman, you've got to look at the conditions of the course, and certainly the Ironman course is one of the most taxing. It's guaranteed to be hot, it's guaranteed to be very humid, but it's really similar to a lot of places in the country, and I've learned not just to consume water out there on the course. For several years, I just took in water and thought that I could get by. You need to have some sort of fluid replacement drink, and you need to sustain your blood sugar level, so you need some calories in your tank. Water is your first source to rehydrate, but you have to increase your electrolyte level and also your blood sugar level, so you need to take a supplement along the way. And I've done that over the last few years, and it certainly allowed me to sustain my effort at a high pace all the way through the run.
The training table has been brought to you by Exceed Fluid Replacement and Energy Drink, part of the Exceed family of sports nutritionals, putting the science of sports nutrition on your training table.
We'll be back with more from San Diego when Running and Racing continues. We're on the beach in San Diego with Bob Babbitt, publisher of Competitor Magazine. And Bob, there would seem to be a tendency with so many great triathletes in this town for it to get very serious and for everyone to be looking over their shoulder. But they all seem to have fun and talk about your fun events almost as much as the next Ironman triathlon.
Well, the reason for that is that triathlon is lifestyle, and what all these guys were doing before they were making money at triathlon is they were running, biking, and swimming as part of what they did every day. So when we go out and we do a fun event, a ride and tie, where they're picking up inflatable bunnies along the road, they enjoy it just as much because it's a workout. And the reason they're able to go out and train with each other and keep it easy among each other is that who's ever fittest that day is going to win. It's who's ever in the best shape. It really doesn't matter. You can't really change things by once race day comes along. Who's ever fittest is going to win.
Great atmosphere here in San Diego.
Pete Brantly is the first great runner to come out of the state of Florida. 8 years ago, he came to the University of Florida in Gainesville and stayed. Today, he is a top American road racer who got into the sport for the same reasons as many of his competitors.
Well, basically, it's because I wasn't a baseball player or a football player or anything like that. You know, I was fairly small when I was growing up. I wasn't big enough to play football, and I don't have any eye-hand coordination, so I couldn't play baseball. So I started running basically out of necessity, running for my brothers. I have 3 older brothers, and they made things a little difficult on me. You know, chasing me around, so I decided the only way I'm going to get away from them is to get good in running. So I've basically been running since I was 15 years old, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. I enjoy the competition a lot. I don't enjoy the training that much, but I really enjoy the competition. I just enjoy being able to go out and trying to prove myself, trying to go out and trying to win the race. I mean, there's no greater feeling than crossing a finish line in first place, knowing that you've beaten some excellent runners, just as they feel when they beat me. I mean, it's you know, the feeling is very hard to describe. Whether it's a small race or it's a big race like this race, or it's the Olympic Games, the feeling is always the same. You know, it's just a thrill of victory, and then I enjoy that a lot.
Wings Sunglasses by Bausch & Lomb presents Cycling Great Event.
Hi, I'm Connie Paris-Gavin-Young. The sport of cycling is almost 100 years old, with a continually developing racing tradition. Throughout the world, from small towns to country capitals, great events annually bring together the best of the cycling world.
The site, Somerville, New Jersey. The event, the Tour of Somerville Cycling Classic. It's become known as the Kentucky Derby of Cycling. 46 years old and counting. The Tour of Somerville is a 50-mile criterium contesting for $20,000 in prizes. 40,000 spectators line the course. It's the largest one-day crowd in U.S. cycling. And the athletes respond.
See you next time for another great event in cycling.
We'll be back with more from San Diego when Running and Racing continues. We're on Solano Beach in San Diego, where a tradition is about to be born. The Ironman started in Hawaii, but triathlons have been traced to San Diego. We think the beach ride and tie might be the next big event.
Hold the kelp. You got to hold the kelp up, Steve.
Most ride and tie competitions use 1 horse and 2 runners. The beach ride and tie would use 1 mountain bike and 2 runners. You ride, drop the bike off, and run. Your partner picks up the bike and rides ahead of you and does the same. there's a lot of strategy involved. Beach ride and tie is the idea of Bob Babbitt, whose annual trail ride and tie is a San Diego tradition. The editor of Competitor magazine invents more events than most people have time to compete in. For beach ride and tie, bonus times can be accumulated by finding objects on the beach, like stuffed animals and frisbees marked with time bonuses. As Bob and I start out in last place, our eyes are peeled for these bonus babies. Bob picks up the bike, which I, in the excitement, had forgotten to get off of until I had ridden much too far.
We're going to get the pass.
My legs moving as fast as hers. I must be in soft sand. We're going to have a battle on our hands for last place.
What do you have the most fun, though?
This is a great event, but not for me. Whoa!
Actually, I was having a lot of fun. Back on the bike at the turnaround, the incoming tide hasn't made the ride any easier. Nothing but soft sand and seaweed. Bob and I haven't managed to find any bonus babies, so we need to pick up the pace. Somebody found a bonus baby and pinned it to her shirt. They were all gone by the time Bob and I got there. The battle for last place is clear. With 200 yards left, we're going to lose. Unless Bob can catch their cyclist in the fluorescent shorts, there's no sense in my sprinting. Not that I was sure of having a sprint at this point. In the beach ride and tie, it's the second person from the team across the finish who counts in the scoring. So right now, Bob will determine our fate. But our competition misjudges the finish and makes a bike exchange with 100 yards left. If Bob can beat their cyclist to the finish, we don't come in last. One part of our race was almost perfect, as both runner and rider finished almost together. Bob Babbitt, the ultimate competitor, wins by a bike length and saves space for the journalists.
Okay, from Solano Beach in San Diego, this is Marty Liquori for Toni Reavis and Annette, Corky, the rest of the Musketeers. We'll see you next week on Running and Racing. Everybody in the ocean. Sure.